a larger number of people and employ a larger number of people and give people an awesome place to come to work and, do more great paint jobs than if it was just me doing everything all the time. So there's definitely a trade-off. So you have a shop space, right?
Yeah, we've got a pretty big shop space. We don't have a booth like you guys yet, but we have a lot of shop space, and that's been a game changer in my operation. It's awesome to have that space.
How did that come about?
I worked with a contractor. He was kind of a general contractor. He did a little bit of everything. And his father was a woodworker, Italian guy, and he used it for more of like, he was a pack rat, man, is really what he was. That place, 3,000 square feet, and there was like one narrow path that you could walk through that. So he had me come over. He said, "Hey, my dad is looking to get out of this. Are you interested?" And I looked around. I'm like, dude, he's never going to be able to clear this place out. Like, it was crazy. But the wheels started turning. I'm like, wow, what if I have this space? Because I was working out of my basement. So long story short, he ended up clearing it out, and then we moved in. We've been there, I think October was a year, so we've been there like 14 months now. And we've got a pretty decent setup in there.
So I'm going to ask you the question everybody asked me. At what point did you know you could afford to move into a shop?
I didn't. I just went for it because the opportunity was there. Also, man, I have probably one of the sweetest deals around, man. I have 3,000 square feet. I pay $800 a month for it. It's insane. Dude, I never want to leave. It's kind of old, but for $800 for that amount of space, it's insane.
That's insane.
Like, I feel like I'm doing something wrong when I pay rent. Like, how is this happening?
Lease in writing.
What's that?
You should get a long-term lease in writing.
I know. I think you're right. Yeah. The owner is, a businessman that lives in Florida, and he hasn't. I've never even met him. I've been there for 13 months. I've never even met him. He just bought the building up in the 80s when real estate was, cheap. It used to be a Pratt and Whitney plant long time ago. I've got like, you'll see in pictures, I've got like a little like wooden block floor. Looks like Jenga blocks. It's super cool, but it's also not very friendly for gloss coatings. I have to do a lot of work in there to make it clean.
That's my next question. How do you spray gloss in this place?
I don't know if I want to tell everything.
You don't have to tell anything that you don't want to share.
Yeah, there's some stuff that I do that not too many people know, but just excessive vacuuming, obviously. We vacuum, all the time. We have a really nice homemade booth. We don't have a real booth yet, but anytime I'm getting ready to shoot gloss, like a lot of times online, you'll see me kind of spraying out in the open in my shop because it's so big. I have, the back corner, nothing's really there. So we line up some, extraction fans, and we just kind of shoot things out in the open there sometimes. So basically what I'll try to do, I'll try to save the booth for when I have a gloss piece coming up. Keep it super clean, keep it closed. We'll put a brand new floor down. Everything is brand new Tyvek suit, it's almost like surgical going in there. And a lot of times I'll prime my piece out in the open, and again, to save the booth for that finish coat. Because what I'm doing right now, the last 8 to 10 pieces I've done, one finish coat of Hollandneck. I don't want to put 2 coats on anymore. You know what I mean? I'll put 8 coats of primer if it will guarantee me 1 coat of Hollandneck. And most people can't wrap their head around that.
Well, there's another secret people just learned.
Yeah.
To this show.
Yep.
All right. Well, we have some questions here from some people. So I'm going to put some of these questions up, and we'll answer them as they come in. Paint Finisher asks, how long does the gloss door last, and does snow destroy it? Well, that's a good question. It depends on a lot of things, like how long a door light is going to last. Depends on a lot of things, but it's going to last longer than any other coating that I am aware of. So that's what I'll say. What do you think about that?
I mean, it's a marine grade paint, so it's built to last. It really is. I mean, even the primer, you can coat something in Fine Paints of Europe oil primer, and it has an open time for 1 year. You can prime something and leave it out in the elements for 1 full year. You put 2 coats on, you got 2 years, and that's just the primer.
Insane.
So it's not a myth. We're not making this stuff up. It's insane quality. It really is. It's a marine grade coating. You can throw the thing in the ocean. I don't recommend it, but you can.
Any ever actually felt pollen lack in real life? It's so different. We had a client in the shop today, and she knew she wanted it, but I don't think she'd ever seen it in real life. She brought us a piece, and we're doing a bunch of stuff at her house. And I was like, she's like, can I put it on my floors? And the dogs won't hurt it? I was like, well, come feel this paint. This is cured Holland lac. You know, there's nothing like it.
I love that you say that, because that's one of my favorite things is how it feels. Obviously it looks incredible, but it feels like it was like dipped in some kind of crazy coating. Like it's got like some sort of shell on it. And it, oh my God, it just feels incredible. Like it feels like it could take a bullet.
It's the best. So Steph from Pro Image just said she saw a house painted 15 years ago with Holland lac. It was just faded and barely peeling. So 15 years, pretty good. Interior, I don't think it'll ever go bad. I just saw a Holland lac. I posted that picture from Jessica. That piece 15 years ago in Holland lac, and I swear to God, you could not tell it was more than it didn't just get done yesterday. There's no difference to that paint 15 years later. It was unbelievable.
I did a mantle 3 years ago, and it's cool. I'll post some pictures. I'm getting ready to go back and do some more work at this house. But it was a black mantle, and it gets a whole lot of sun exposure. Big picture window, and literally the sun is just beating on it all day. That thing looks exactly like it did when I applied it. I mean, that's only 3 years, but it's getting direct sun, and it literally still looks the exact same.
All right, we got some more questions. It's a good question. Carrera Custom Finishes. When is the right time to get something like a Kremlin? I have thoughts. What are your thoughts?
Your thoughts are probably more helpful than mine. Because I mean, for me, man, I knew what I wanted to do. I just went for it. I think you should really know the direction you want your business to go. And I also think I'm a giant Kremlin supporter. They send me cool stuff. I talk with the reps all the time. But it's not an ideal machine for every situation. And you're trying to beat into my head right now to start running cup guns. And I'm never going to ditch the Kremlin. But, dude, I need to incorporate, like, some Setas because I'm doing small pieces and I'm buying, like, $300 worth of paint and I'm using this much.
What? Yeah.
I did a rocking chair for my daughter. I literally used under a quart. Get a gallon.
But, I mean, you have to fill the line and the waste when you clean the machine. And then how many gallons did it take to clean the machine? You know, Kremlins are amazing and have an awesome place. But for small jobs, they're not ideal. For
me, that's exactly it. For me, I'm never going to not run Kremlins. I have a few of them. A Kremlin is always going to be, you know, my choice. But I think it is good to have, you know, a couple different choices. I run a Tritech Airless quite a bit. I think maybe let's try to get back to answering his question a little bit better. I love running my Kremlin on, you know, sets of cabinets. It's a production machine. It's a fine finish production machine. Yeah. It's excellent in shop settings. If you have shop space, Kremlin is lights out.
Yep, we have one hanging in the booth.
Mm-hmm.
It's essential for larger projects. Like we would never take a cup gun and spray a gloss ceiling or a room or a set of cabinets, a large set of cabinets. I think you get a Kremlin when you are trying to produce fine finish at scale.
I mean, most cabinet shops are running Kremlins. I mean, Wagner is making some noise right now for sure. But for a long time, I believe the gold standard has been Kremlin.
Kremlin they need to make a gun that competes with the new weapon. I think they can do it. I'm sure they're probably doing R&D right now. Couple quick fixes and they're right back in the lead. But even to the point, to be fair, this is more of a question about air-assisted airless. True air-assisted airless, right? Not a finished pro. And they're just not good for small jobs. But like you said, I think that's very well said. A fine finish with production speed.
Mm-hmm.
And
you can use, I mean, I did it to paint a little mini rocking chair. It's not a great idea. I wasted a lot of paint, but it can be done. Doesn't make sense to continue to do, though, and I realized that. I'm like, this is insane. I can't keep doing this.
Especially if you have a shop and you can get one of those parts cleaners and save yourself, save the environment, blah, 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 blah.
Oh, yeah.
Speed, time, money, environment.
When I came to the ZK finishing school, you pulled me aside and said, Mikey, you got to watch me clean this gun. It'll blow your mind. 2 seconds, like a squirt of solvent, and you were cleaned out. And I'm like, okay.
To clean a gun that had oil in it in under a minute with less than an ounce of thinner.
Yeah. I
mean, it's just not fair to compare them to an air-assisted airless for small projects. So preserve_develop asks a question. If you're doing a classic super glossy wall finish on a renovation, at what point do you decide to replace drywall and start over versus trying to get the wall flat and smooth with priming and sanding? Do you have thoughts on this?
I mean, I've never really had to replace drywall. I don't know. Have you?
I would say the answer to this question is because you have to understand that if you put new drywall up, you're still going to need to do 5 skim coats and a bunch. Like, putting new drywall up does not make it so you have a flat, smooth wall, right? So I would say very rarely would it ever make sense to put new drywall up unless you had extreme texture.
Or it was damaged, some sort of water damage or something like that. But basically with gloss, the biggest thing that you're doing is you need to create a brand new surface to work on. Even if it's a good surface, even a brand new piece of furniture, you're going to put some serious work into to be gloss ready. You're creating and building a new surface suitable for high gloss. Yeah. Like level 5 in drywall is like laughable. Like, it doesn't mean anything. Chris Polidoro says it all the time. Level 5, no, level 50. Because it doesn't. Brand new house doesn't mean anything. Like you just said, you're gonna skim it 8 times. You're gonna skim it 5 to 8 times. Prime it 5 times, even on a brand new surface.
Here we go. Paint Finisher has got another question for us. Have you ever had a gloss door fail in any way through the years?
So I'm 4 or 5 years in. I haven't seen any kind of failure through the product directly. I've seen some failures on my end, like maybe some fillers that I would use underneath. Like I would run a lot of like the 3M or like the Bondo like spot putty. That stuff is way too brittle to be doing like larger skimming and repairs. It dries super brittle, and that could cause you problems down the road. It could start cracking underneath your fine paint and primer. I mean, fine paints really doesn't fail. It's how you apply it. We fail. The product almost never fails if done correctly.
Yeah, the failures I've seen have been of oftentimes they're of the construction of the door. We will not paint fiberglass doors that have windows in them anymore. If you twice I did 2 gloss doors that were fiberglass and had the window in them, and you make them. Oftentimes you get those new, and there's like sealant oozing out of that edge.
Yes.
So we cleaned that up, super nice, dug it all out. We made those doors mint, and then they heated up in the sun, and that sealant heated up and pushed its way out and caused a failure around those squares. So that is one thing that we don't do. I won't paint a fiberglass door with a window in it, and I won't do a metal door that's just like a skin, like those thin skin metal doors. We generally won't do those either, because I found that if you fix the dings and the nicks in those doors, they heat up and the metal expands and it will pop
back out. Yeah.
Later. That was another thing I saw. And then my first door ever, I had to redo it a couple of years later. That door should have been replaced. I was so excited to do a gloss door. I ignored the fact that the door was not in very good shape and it was like a veneered door. And so we repaired it, but the veneer was failing. And so sure enough, a year or two later, the veneer failed again underneath the paint. And, but nothing caused by the door. But I think the point being, you don't want to put an amazing paint job on a weak foundation. So we definitely want to be careful when you sell a door for the amount of money we sell doors for, that you're not putting this awesome paint job on a weak foundation.
I just turned down a metal door on the same street where a couple of my other gloss doors will be, for the exact same reason you said. I saw a couple kind of sizable dings and dents, and that it gets a lot of sunlight, and I said, this is not a good idea. As much as I wanted to have another door on that street, I know I can make it look incredible, but is it going to last?
Yeah.
And I don't feel right about charging, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 for something that I don't believe in. And that's why I love fine paints. It's a product that I really believe in, as long as it's prepared and applied correctly. You say it all the time. Don't get blinded by or distracted by the shiny thing in front of you. Think of the whole situation. Of course you want to paint the door and make it shiny and beautiful, but should you?
Yes. Yes. And once it's like that same feeling that you had to rush into painting that first gloss door, and you took the hardware off and you painted the wrong side. Same thought though. It's like, slow down a second.
Yeah.
Is this a good fit? And I'm working very hard to get very comfortable saying no now, because you have a problem. Like, you run into things where you say yes in the wrong situation. You have people upset enough times, and it starts to be easier to say no than it is to say yes up front and then have someone upset later.
Absolutely.
A lot of people are asking a lot of technical questions, and I really don't want to get into that side of the equation as much here. That's what the Q&A is for. On Sunday nights, we'll answer all those types of questions. But let's see, is there anything else you want to talk about? I've got all my questions. What are you thinking about these days in painting? Like, what's going on with you? What's the next?
We are getting ready next week to do our largest project to date. It's probably going to be like a 4-phase project. It's in Farmington, Connecticut. Very large house. We're kicking it off with a large family room. It's got a beautiful coffered ceiling, and the whole ceiling is going to go Holland satin. That's going to be cool. So all of the woodwork throughout the house, doors, trim, everything is going to be fine paints, Holland satin. Walls and ceilings will be wrapped in the same color, which is cool. I I don't know if we're doing matte or flat yet, but the whole house is going to be fine paints of Europe. There's a beautiful custom-built butler's pantry that's going gloss. There's a gloss room. It's either going to be the full room or the ceiling. There's like 3 staircases in there that are getting glossed out. I think we're going to do a full black staircase, like everything, even the treads, because it doesn't get walked on a lot. We're going to be there for a very long time, and what I'm doing, and the client is awesome. We're breaking it into pieces, man. You know, when I first started out, or even a year ago, I would want to take that whole job in maybe fear of not getting the whole job. You know what I mean? I want to get locked in and make sure that we're going to get this whole job. So now I'm breaking into smaller pieces. We're going to start with the family room, come back, you know, a month later, foyer, hallways. We're going to turn it into like 4 to 6 phases. And that's something that, you know, I've learned as I've gone along. It's tough for the business owner, for your employees, for your apprentices, and more importantly for the homeowner. That's tough, man. When you're in someone's house for 8 weeks or longer, it's tough. And you try to prepare them for that up front. And even if you do a great job of setting expectations and how things are going to go, it gets difficult, man.
I think that's a brilliant idea. We've talked about it a little bit already. I think there's no better way to go than to make a bunch of little wins along the way and keep the client's momentum. Chris is saying we should just do it quicker. If Chris was here, if it was Chris's job, he would just throw 25 guys on it. Or in his case, he put 8 guys in a room sanding gloss because they're insane.
So it's funny that he popped on right now because I literally was just going to say, or you can be shoreline painting and do the whole job in 8 days. That kid is a machine, though. There's nothing like shoreline painting, man. There really isn't.
There's nothing. We're looking at working together on a project coming up, and I was talking to the GC today, and you know, it's a value proposition that very few can compete with.
I used to think, like, Chris is an oxymoron to me. I used to think production and quality couldn't happen at the same time, and he just smashed that.
Yeah. It's a very remarkable thing to be able to do the level of work that they do at the scale that they do it at. Unbelievable. And remind me, Chris, I want to talk to you more about that. I had some thoughts about that today. Chris asked Uni Primer, how we spraying? You sprayed a lot of Uni Primer, huh?
Yeah. Honestly, man, I'm loving it out of the Tritech Airless. I'm posting pictures and videos, and people are thinking it's Howlneck. I mean, it's glass. It lays down beautifully. It sands incredible. It is very, very close to a traditional oil. It really is. I mean, I love oil. And I told John when he started talking about the Uni Primer, I said, I'm a tough sell, man, because I'm old school oil. Like, I love my oil. And I'm going to run oil until I can't run it anymore.
I told him today. I talked to John today, and I said, he's like, how you doing with Uni? I'm like, I'm going to crush it on walls, but it's going to take a lot to get me to stop spraying oil.
Absolutely. I did run it on some cabinet projects and some furniture projects, and it did very well. It gave me a good build. It sanded nice.
What are you using?
Does pretty well with tannins.
What are you using for a tip?
I always run Tritech tips. I like to go as small as possible with my tips. I don't want to get super technical.
Let's skip that. Chris can put it in a DM.
Chris, Shoreline, he knows what we're doing.
That's it. Let's see. Somebody else had this is our good friend Kendall here. He said, not a question. I'm just here to say I love the Yeezys. Can you tell me about the Yeezys and how they affect the paint job?
Dude, everyone knows if you don't look good, you're not going to paint good. We actually got them on right now.
You're the only guy painting in Yeezys.
Yeah, probably. They are incredibly comfortable, though. They really are.
And you have a couple pairs of those, I guess?
I sold most of them, man. It was out of control. I had like 65 pairs, and I said, what am I doing, man? I'm a grown man with kids. I'm a businessman, and I've got a basement full of shoes. So, yeah, I sold them all. I still buy, I've got a couple pairs left, but that's my goals have changed, man. I'm not.
God, that's a beautiful thing to hear, man. The maturity. I'm gonna offend some people here in a second, but that maturity, I have a lot of respect for. The growing of priorities, right?
It's funny. I actually have right on my desk, man. This is what I'm doing it for. These are my little girls. They got some wet paint gear on. This is my firstborn, Mila Rose. This is Madden, 3 and almost 2. And everything I do now, man, is for them. I want to be the best, not for me or for my ego, but for them. I know that I have an opportunity with this business to set them up for life. And that's what Fine Paints has done for me. And John has done for me, and guys like you have done for me. I have the ability to do this and set my girls up for the rest of their life. And that's what I'm going to do now. When I'm struggling, that's what gets my ass out of bed and makes me want to do this at the highest level and be the best that I can be.
Have you got them working in the business yet?
No, not yet. But dude, they love to paint. They really do. They're always painting at home.
Yeah,
I love it.
I see them on your Instagram. It's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. I can't wait for that, man. My oldest always says, I want to paint with Daddy. She'll say it in school. I want to paint doors, is what she says. It's awesome, man.
That's tremendous. Yeah, to your point about like getting rid of your shoes and getting your priorities going, I love that. And I was talking today with my assistant about sports and how I watched 0 football games from start to finish this year for the first time in my life.
Me too.
I'm a big sports fan. It was amazing. Like all Sunday was an excuse to do nothing and sit on the couch, and nothing wrong with that. But I think sometimes sports could be a huge distraction. And if it's a distraction and you're like, I'm looking for a distraction today, I'm going to go watch sports. Awesome.
You said it best. It's an excuse to not, and sometimes that's okay, man, but
yeah, we need it.
Yeah.
I just don't want to be delusional about when I'm doing these like unproductive distractions. And I sure don't want my self-esteem wrapped up in how my team is doing today. I have no control over how my team did today. I have control over my life and how I perform in my relationships, in my business. And I'm not looking to a sports team anymore as a proxy for did I win. But that was not always the case. For a very long time, sports were a big deal in my life. And I think when I look back on it, that was not a positive. It takes away from like my focus on what matters. And, still like to watch sports from here time to time, but not really anymore. It happens every year. There's another, my wife's like, there's a football game on last night. And I was just like, I'm going to read a book and go to bed early. And that was so weird for me to not care about the national championship game,
Yeah, I didn't even know it was last night until this morning. And I thought that maybe it was kind of COVID because sports are kind of weird this year. But really this year, my focus has really shifted, man, like big time.
And I think Chris got it, though, golf. That I enjoy playing the sports still, right? The golf has been a huge addition to my life because it's a distraction that feeds the business. Whereas, and that's where I'm looking at now is like, where can I find distractions that are going to feed my other aspirations? And for me, joining a country club and playing golf and inviting, business contacts to come golf. And, I don't know. I've replaced sports I try to replace sports with things that are going to feed my bigger goals.
Yeah, I think golf is excellent.
Golf, so I'm coming for you, buddy.
Chris, you got to invite me to your country club in the spring, man, and then we'll start some golf.
I have such a long way to go to ever beat Chris at golf. I don't think it's going to happen. But one of these days we'll play together. Oh, how about this? Do you have a favorite business book?
I'm reading Zach. What's his name? He came to ZK finishing school. What's that?
Alan Langer.
Yes, that book is incredible. It's the name's on the tip of my tongue right now.
It's right over there. It's like seven ways to sell without selling.
Without selling, yes. That's really good.
But it's a great book.
And it's kind of simple. It's nothing super crazy. It's just, it's simplified. And I'm starting to get more into reading. Correction, I don't read. I do Audible.
Me too.
And I ask people, does this even count? Am I really reading? Like, does it even count? But yeah, man, it's good.
So Alan Langer's 7 Ways to Sell Without Selling. I can attest that is a great book. We were lucky enough to have him at ZK Finishing School. He came and did a short talk and gave everybody a book, which was really cool.
I mean, what's important for me, man, and it was important for me to kind of be who I am on here. I'm not a great businessman. I'm learning. So I don't read a lot of books. What I do is I research the hell out of paint. I play with paint. I push it to see how far I can make it fail. And then I know, okay, I can't go that far. I'm going to dial it back just a little bit. And I'm a good salesman. I'm not a great businessman yet, but I know with the team and the people around me, I'm going to get there. And I'm bringing people in that are better at that. I mean, I'm a great painter and salesman. Why am I trying to do my books and do all this other shit?
Yeah. We have Chris and John Shearer to look up to as guides to, talk about running a business. Those dudes are, they're on another level, right? And they're producing amazing paintwork. So I see it as a natural progression of, we start painting, we get good at painting. Now we can go get good at business.
Exactly.
We live in America. And we live in this modern world where there's all this information at our fingertips. You can download a book tomorrow. Some guy spent years of his life studying something and wrote it down in a book, and I get to consume it in a week or two.
You're right. Basically it's how bad do you want it and how bad are you willing to work at something, and basically everything is just readily available for you to put the effort in. I think this year for me, I'm going to work on, really fine-tuning and developing systems. So basically my company can run like a system without me being there all the time to make sure it's running like a system. And then that's going to give me more time to, be a better businessman and maybe get out of the field a little bit. That's the goal.
So much. It's hard to do both.
It is. I think I'm at, I've kind of plateaued. If I don't change, I don't think I can grow any more than where I'm at right now. And we're doing well, but I'm not doing this to do okay. For all of the stress and headaches, I can go do okay being a lead painter for you or Chris. I'm not doing this to do okay. I want to elevate, the business. And that's this year's goal, man. I know I can paint, but now I want to teach people how to paint better than me and be a better businessman.
If this was a podcast and we edited it after and we made a description of the podcast and we put it up at the beginning, like podcasts do, the tagline would be, I'm not doing this to be okay. That's tremendous. And I think that anyone on here right now, right? There's 32 people watching us live talk about paint and business of painting. Obviously, all these people are not doing it to be okay because they could be, watching a game or whatever. So, yeah, man, I think that's awesome. The continued growth. I would say my favorite business book, the one that's probably inspired me the most, has been Understanding Michael Porter. That book is a seminal book on business to me. Yes, this podcast is available after on iTunes and Spotify, and it will be in my IGTV. The iTunes and the Spotify comes out like a week later, but this will be an IGTV immediately after to answer someone else's question. Let's see. I thought I saw another non-technical question. Oh, I saw this was a good one. I put it up earlier. Mike, where do you see your business in 5 years? This is such a scary and interesting question at the same time.
I mean, ideally, man, I see my business in 5 years right about where your business is right now. That's kind of my goal. I don't plan on expanding super fast, having multiple people just to have bodies. It's very important for me to keep the quality very high. I think to get there, I have to take some chances a little bit. I'm scared to death to just hire random people. But just hire and fire, man. That's it. Constantly hiring. And if it's not working out, constantly firing. So I want to expand, but, and we went over this at ZK Finishing School as well, where you told me, because I was ready to just hire 2 guys just for the hell of it. And you're like, no, man, like you want to push yourself to get to the point where you literally can't handle the amount of work. You want to make sure the supply and the demand is, it makes sense for you to bring on more people. But I think in 5 years, I would like to be maybe right around 5 to 10 guys. I don't think 10. I don't know if I can handle that. I don't know if I want to handle that. And just the same thing, man, just doing incredible quality, painting at the highest level. I've toyed around with the idea of maybe like not a watered down version, but maybe just like a general residential repaint crew of like 5 guys that are just crushing, repaints where the quality is great. I'm not really there. I'm just kind of overseeing it, and they're just, like a machine, just cranking out repaints. But I think for me, I want to establish the main part of wet paint before I even worry about that. But that's kind of about what the goal is.
Awesome. You think your business will be using FP exclusively 10 years from now?
Yeah, we're doing it right now.
Yeah, it would seem silly to turn back.
Never going back.
Not with the model that you just described, right?
Last year, we were probably 80-20. Right now, I would say we're like 90-10. And moving forward, man, I'm going to do everything I can to not use anything but.
Sometimes ceilings, it's nice to just use a cheap ceiling paint.
Yeah, we use a lot of, and it's funny calling Benjamin Moore a cheap ceiling paint. Because Ben Moore will always have place. It's just, the big thing for me, man, is Benjamin Moore isn't texting me throughout the week. They're not saying, hey, man, how's everything going? Is there anything I could do for you? How was your holiday? I talk to John like every other day, the owner of Fine Paints, all the time, man. If I call him or text, he's going to get back to me right away. Benjamin Moore is not going to stick their neck out like that for me. So I'm going to do everything I can for John. That's why, I get a little protective over, the certified painters thing. Like, use the paint for the guy, man. So, yeah, I'm absolutely going to be exclusively using Fine Paints of Europe in 10 years, in 1 year, tomorrow. That's it.
Love it. Me too. Omni26 Finish says, have you guys talked about logos? You have a new logo, don't you?
He does. Yeah, and I do as well. Yeah, I think this year I tried to kind of rebrand a little bit, and it's funny. It kind of happened right around when I went up to the, my second Fine Paints, or I'm sorry, ZK Finishing School, the marketing and sales one. I wanted to rebrand and make it absolutely clear that this is what we do. We're a good painting company that will do a little bit of this, a little bit of that. I wanted it very clear that we are a high-end fine finish painting company. And my old logo, you can see it in the back. Dude, it's got a roller, it's a terrible messy pattern. Nothing about this says high quality and fine finish. It looks kind of cool, but it's funny. I hate rolling, dude. I don't like rolling walls. I hate rolling. I'll do anything I can to not roll a wall. So the new logo is a lot cleaner. It's simple. Right there, I'm trying to do too much with that logo. I think a logo is super important. And for me, it hit me. There's a picture of me and you, Zach, holding up each other's shirt. And your logo is very simple. But I look at your logo and then my old logo, I'm like, wow. That yours looks clean, professional. So I rebranded and changed the logo up. And at first I didn't really like it, but I kind of believed in it. And dude, people are eating it up. They love it.
There's something very ironic about your logo, though.
The new one or the old one?
New one.
Oh, that's a cup gun?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's shaped like a cup gun.
Yeah.
I think it's a sign from the stars.
It is, but if you look at it, it kind of looks like a Kremlin gun because I sent it to the graphic designer. I'm like, try to make it look like this gun a little bit. It's funny, though.
Kremlin to make a gravity-fed cup gun.
Yeah, maybe Kremlin could do that for me.
We'll call it the wet paint special.
That would be awesome. Then I'll never leave.
Oh, yeah, I can imagine. This is a question we get a lot, but I think it's a good question to answer this. There's one glaring answer to this question, but Mikey, I'll let you answer this.
So when I read kind of what...
Listening, the question is from Carrera Custom Finishes. He said pointers on getting to Vermont for certification. Yeah,
so when I kind of read I went on the website, Certified Painter Program, and I read the qualifications, and they seem a little crazy at first. My first thought was, how am I going to spend that much money on shiny paint? Like, I'm buying quarts of paint to do handrails. That's a lot of handrails. How am I going to sell $10,000 worth of material in handrails? Now, a lot of those stipulations aren't set in stone, but just in short, use the wall paint, man. Buy his wall paint. Buy the line.
Yeah. Buy 500, like Chris said, buy 500 gallons in 1 year and we'll talk.
That's it, man.
That is the answer, is buy the paint, use the paint, document it, and then if you're buying from a local retailer, buy the paint, use the paint, and talk to them about it and get them to nominate you. If you're buying from Fine Paints of Europe, same thing. Buy the paint, use the paint, show them your work, and there's no better way to get certified than buying a lot of paint.
So for me, the easiest switch was I used to run Advance on all my trim, Benmore Advance, Eco. I used to run Advance on my cabinets, Eco. I do some hollow neck satin as well on cabinets, but just start using it. I just did a whole job. It was again, we're splitting the project up. It was a second floor. I had a printout of what it would be for Benmore and what it would be for Fine Paints because we ended up upselling and the client was on board with it. What does he say? 500 cans.
So you have to buy 500 cans and bring the empty
You have to bring them all to Vermont.
To Vermont.
Rent a U-Haul and bring all your empties because we're going to count them.
I love it. I love it. Chris buys 500 cans a day.
Yeah, a week at least. I just felt like a big shot posting my 8 gallons of uni primer, and Chris probably has a whole warehouse. That's why I can only get 8. But he's nice enough to let me get some of his leftovers.
Let's see. I have another question for you. Here we go. Wild Iris said, as a father and family man, how do you balance family and work life?
Well, again, I'm gonna be completely transparent because I am who I am, and this year I'm trying to figure that out because I'm not in the best situation right now with that. I'm kind of, I get tunnel vision on certain things, and sometimes I get so locked in on one thing that I inadvertently back burner other things. So for me, harmony is kind of the goal this year. It's tough, man, and I think it's tough doing this at our level because there's so much more that goes into it. It's very tough.
It is, and I think that, you know, sometimes you have to bump into the boundaries. Sometimes we crash into the boundaries to try to find the middle of the road. And, you know, there's a lot to be said for giving it 100% while you're working and then giving 100% to your family while you're not. And that's not an easy thing to do when you own a company and people's lives are, you know, they depend on you. But, you know, I love that idea of trying to find that harmony, that middle ground.
So I was told that, you know, do you want balance or harmony? I was asked this by a close friend of mine. And right away I said balance. And he said, why? And to make this short is he explained that you want harmony because to balance something, think of like a triple beam balancer. You have to take something from this side to bring it over here to balance it. So you're always taking something. You're always fighting to find that balance. Where harmony is just like a river flowing. Everything is flowing as one. So harmony is kind of a key word for me this year.
Dude, I love it. That's going to be when we one day edit this podcast and we put things in the beginning, like short little clips of cool things. That's going to be the second thing we add. Harmony.
The first one's got to be the door being painted on the wrong side.
Well, there's that one too. I think this will be the last question we got right here. This is an easy one, I think. Well, we'll answer this. I think this people ask me this question a lot. And so SNN Painting said, for regular house repainting, you charge more because of FP materials. But do you charge more for labor?
You want to go first?
Yeah, I would say no. I think your labor rate should be dictated by the market and what you can get. So what the type of work you're doing generally. Now, if you're using big pieces of heavy equipment that, you know, add a bunch of overhead, you should probably charge more. Like I charge more for my shop rate is higher than my site work rate. But just because you are doing finer finish doesn't make sense to raise your hourly rate. Like your hourly rate is determined by your costs, your profit, and by the market. So if you want to increase your hourly rate, the best way to do that is increase the demand for your services while keeping supply the same, right? Because now if twice as many people want to hire you and you have the same amount of hours to work in the year, you're going to be able to raise your prices because you only need to get half of those people to hire you. The way to raise your rates is not by just saying, I'm doing nicer work, so now I'm going to charge more. That doesn't make any sense. It has to come down to, I am worth more in the market. I get to give prices that are higher and still stay busy, right? The way we get more money per hour is by getting people to say yes to more expensive jobs. And that means you're going to get a lot more no's, but if you have lots more options, you're going to stay busy while charging more money. So I would encourage people to again, it's basic microeconomics. It's supply and demand and understanding. Like, that's why you have to read business books or understand business before you before you can run a successful business generally. So that's kind of my take. I hate the idea of people thinking, you know, you're charging more because you're doing a better job. Like, no. And I'm glad to see Chris agrees with me because that he knows what he's doing.
Absolutely. I mean, it almost comes off inadvertently kind of shady. You know what I mean? Like you're telling me that you can do it better. You know, I mean, for me, it comes down to for me this year, rebranding, and this is all I want to do. I'm not going to go do a flip house or paint some apartments and then all of a sudden we're going to be doing a full gloss ceiling. I think that's just dangerous on so many levels because all of a sudden your guys can't get used to the kind of work that you're doing. You can't develop a system when you don't even know what you're doing. You know what I mean? When you're painting all sorts of different styles and offering different levels, it's like a car wash. You know, do you want the basic? Do you want the super? Or do you want the deluxe? That's confusing as hell, man. Like, for me, I just want to offer the best and focus on the best, and that's what we're going to do. And that's how you're able to charge what you charge.
You charge more by increasing demand. Like, so Chris makes a good point. Gloss work, he said gloss work is where you can charge. The reason you can charge more for gloss work if you're doing it at the level that we're doing it at is because there's way less people who can. So supply and demand.
Supply and demand again, yeah.
Right? They have less people to choose from, so they're going to pay a premium, right? And so just because you use fine paints does not mean you get to raise your prices. That's not it's not, they don't have anything to do with each other. It's about adding better value to the client. It's about the most important thing is increased demand. You know how many freaking phone calls Chris Shoreline Painting gets every day? I can't imagine, right? You know, to get the rates that they charge and to keep 90 painters busy, it's way more important to have lots of people who want to hire you. That's how you can raise your rates. Because if I give you a high price and you say no, I don't care. Bob over here, he wants to hire me, and Tim and John and Susie and all those people want me to give them prices. So I don't care if I lose this job. In fact, if you don't want to pay what I'm charging, have a great day.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'm so excited to say no, because
that's the biggest change for me this year. Is I'm like pre-qualifying over the phone. Like, I'm almost trying to not go out and look at your job. Yeah. You know, I'll literally ask, what is your budget? I'll ask a bunch of questions to basically feel you out and deter you. You know, just that's it, man.
How did you hear about us? That's my first question.
Yeah, how did you hear about us?
You know, if they're like, oh, on Google, I saw you're in Coventry, Rhode Island, so are we. I'm like, oh, yeah.
Nope.
I just had my website redone, and it went live today. And the whole website is designed to do that exact same thing. If you go through my website and you're like, I'm going to inquire, I'm really hoping that you know that you're going to be paying and you're going to get quality, but it's not going to be cheap. But again, if I don't have a demand, if the demand side is not through the roof, then I'm going to have to start lowering my prices to stay busy. But, you know, I think it's a good question. People think that a lot of times that just by changing the paint, but hourly rates really should be determined by supply and demand. All right, we're at 2 hours. I could probably go for 2 more, but we got to have work-life balance, baby. So, and just to Chris's point, I love that he said, I never understood not asking budget questions. If a client if you can't talk about the money involved ahead of time, that's a red flag to me.
Absolutely. And for me, I felt weird, you know, even last year, I felt weird. Well, what's your budget? I felt weird asking those questions, but now that's the first thing I'm asking, basically. What is your budget? What are you looking to do here? A great analogy is like dating. You know, you go out and you use a lot. You go out on a date with someone. You have a terrible first date. You're not going to go, oh, my God, we went on a date. We have to get married now. No, you're going to keep it moving. Like, every client is not for you, and that's okay. We're looking for our ideal client, someone that has, you know, expectations of what we're trying to offer. And that's what I'm looking for now. Not every job is not for me. Every client is not for me, and that's okay. And I'm saving a lot of time by not going out to look at, you know, I probably cut my estimates down 50%.
Oh, me too. We don't put numbers on very many things.
Yeah.
So to the point of this, like, okay, so that the same question could be asked. It's just as insane to think that as it is to say, when I go to a $10 million house, I'm going to charge more per hour than if I'm in a $500,000 house. That is another ludicrous thing, right? So if I can't have a client that I want to know that my company adds good value. We know what we're doing. We know our costs. So if I say this thing costs $5,000, I didn't just like roll a dice and see what the number came up as. That number came from someplace.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm going to ask you what your budget is because I need to understand how to tailor a scope of work to meet your expectations. We talk about it all the time, every single client. Painting is about budget and expectations. Budget and expectations. Because I don't care if you want a Ferrari. If you have no money, guess what? You don't get a Ferrari. Mm-hmm. And by understanding budget and expectations, I can tailor a paint scope. But I think too often people are making up numbers. And so our clients think they're making up numbers, and they're making up numbers. So if clients are going to think, oh, if I tell him $10,000, he's going to charge me $10,000 for it. But I don't care if you're in a $10,000 or a $500,000 house or a $10 million house. You know, I think the professional way to go is like a date. Are we a good fit? Like, okay, if not, moving on. If I take advantage of somebody and charge them more money than the job costs, that is not good business. I'm quite certain Shoreline, who's doing millions and millions a year in sales, is not looking at someone and going, I'm going to take advantage of this person because I can and charge them and gouge them. Because the long game is so much more important than the short game. So, yeah, I think it's very important to talk about budget and expectations very early.
Yeah, the most important thing.
I like to throw out big numbers early and just see how they feel, how they respond, right? You know, I told a lady today, you know, yeah, an average dining room ceiling is probably $15,000. But I also told her, you're going to have to pay for our commute because you're far away. Mm. Last client, you know, they paid, you know, whatever they paid. They paid $35,000 and they paid us $9,000 in commuting. And she was like, oh. But it's like, okay, so now she knows where we stand because those are my costs. I had to charge that in order to make a profit. So if that client's not cool with paying my commute and paying those types of numbers for that type of work, I'd rather find out right now before I drive 2 hours to go meet her. And in the past, it was like, wait, you're calling me? Can I come just like give you some pricing, please? Like I was so, no one called me. I didn't have people calling me.
I know, man. I mean, I've got myself in many situations, you know, traveling, and I just went out and did an estimate. This isn't now. I'm just using, you know, hypothetically talking. You know, it's an hour and a half away, but it's a pretty decent job. All of a sudden, we're there for 3 weeks. It's an hour and a half every day. I didn't factor any of that in. Like, I mean, of course you have to pay for the commute. And we're doing some work in, you know, Massachusetts and stuff now. And I'm telling them right away that you basically have to pay us to commute because we are, in fact, commuting.
Yeah. I think, you know, we need to make a profit. And hopefully I have lots of options on where to go work tomorrow. So I get to find the one that's the best fit for me.
So, yeah, Chris just said we pre-qualify every lead, and that's asking those questions right away. What are you looking for? What's the budget? And it's not anything seedy or anything. It's setting expectations right off the rip.
Well,
are we a good fit for each other?
That's the point. So SNN Painting said, but in general, don't forget your level of work is different than 80% of the painters. I don't think that's the point. I don't think it has to do with the level of work. I think it has to do with the level of professionalism. He also mentioned that he thinks 80% of people would take advantage of a client and raise the price based off their budget. I don't think that's true for any of these successful long-term businesses. That might be true for the average painter someplace, but we're not trying to compete with those guys. We're trying to compete with professional businesses. And if we want to be professional businesses, we have to act like them, right? We have to have standards and morals and ethics, and we need to do them blindly because we have faith that by practicing that, the long game is on our side, right? That's how you get those diehard long-term clients is whatever the price I gave you, if I finish the job and you feel like you got an amazing value, that's insurance for the future. I think that there's just a huge lack of unprofessionalism in our trade that brings the bar down and keeps clients. If we don't build the trust and keep the trust throughout the entire process, then yeah, people are going to be wondering why we're talking about budget. But if you come to a professional company and you say, hey, I want to hire you, and they just go, boom, here's the numbers, and everything is trustworthy, I think it's a different story. I don't even want to know how you got an $8,000 bonus on a job, but please tell us a story if you can. That's insane. But I think so much of this comes down to, like, being so professional, not being like a little bit better than the average painter that we worked for, right? If I'm just trying to be a little bit better than the paint contractors I worked for, that is not a good enough bar. I think the bar needs to be, I want to be as professional as the most professional business in my state, right? What are the types of companies that are running professional business? You go to a lawyer's office, it's a well-run professional organization, and you trust them. And I think, there's a lot to be said for not looking at ourselves as just the average painter. We're just painters. Like, we are businesses that we're offering services to the general public. So we should hold ourselves to the highest standards we can think of, not a little bit better than that other guy.
When I really started trying to get to this level, and I kind of had the vision for how to get to this level, I think I'm kind of fortunate that I kind of picked up on what you're talking about very, very early on. And a lot of it didn't have to do with painting. There's a lot of things that I don't hear anymore from clients. When I was kind of trying to go this route, I would hear, wow, I can't believe that you show up on time, or you call us back, or we can trust you in our house. Like, those are things I don't hear anymore, man, because now we're at this level where it's expected. We're providing a service. We're not just going to come throw some paint on your walls. And there's plenty of people that do that, and that's okay, but that's not what we do at all. So I'm not going to operate like that anymore. It just becomes second nature. And again, these are things that I'm not hearing anymore. People aren't impressed that I showed up on time. They're not impressed that I spent 2-3 days covering all of their floors in their home, because we're providing a service. We're not just doing a paint job.
Yeah, I think that it happens that if you want to be successful at the ultra high end, you have to do those things. But I don't think that to be successful doing standard residential repaints, I think these things are incredibly valuable. John from Paint School is a perfect example, right? They're not doing the level of work that we're doing, but they're sure delivering the level of customer service.
They're operating the same way.
So
you could be a commercial painter that is, as long as you have that system in place and you're just, John Scher, they do a lot of industrial and commercial painting that not even a whole lot of people know about, but it's run the same way. You can be the best apartment painter because you're reliable and you deliver the same thing every time. It's basically the core values don't change, whether you're doing a gloss ceiling or an apartment complex. If you're reliable, honest, you operate with integrity, and you have systems in place, it's basically the same core values.
It's professional. It's so funny to talk about it, but like, professional painter shouldn't mean paint. Like, it's not the same as I'm a painter for a living. Like, I make my money through painting. Being a professional company is so different. And it's all within all of our grasp. Like, the difference between just like putting paint on and collecting a check and doing the bare minimum and covered in paint and just getting by, that's going to make it really hard to sell jobs for more money and be profitable. But you can keep the painting exactly the same wherever you're at today and just get better at executing and the customer service experience, right? Those are the things that take it from people being like, who's this guy, to like, this guy was amazing. And that, I know growing up, that was not taught to me by my bosses when I worked in painting. But yeah, man, this has been amazing. We could go for another 2 hours.
Oh yeah. I could talk paint all night, man.
To Wild Iris's point, I think we might try to start having like once a month we'll do the Sunday night Q&A, and I'll bring somebody on. As some of you may know, if not all, the Q&A on Sunday nights is now behind a paywall on Patreon. On my Instagram, you can click a link and it will take you to our Patreon, and you could be part of the group that is now a smaller group of people where we can answer questions more intimately. I'm definitely going to be sharing a lot more that I don't share right now publicly, because this is my business and my clients watch this and I post these on my feed. So I think the Patreon is where people should go if they wanted to dig deeper into these types of things. And I think as part of that, I love that idea of bringing people on, and maybe we'll bring Chris on for the first one, and he can.
That's a good way to kick it off.
And we can find out how one gets an $8,000 bonus, because that's something I'm going to call Chris after this probably to find out.
I got a really good tuna sandwich the other day. They were eating lunch while I was pulling some cabinets, and they made me laugh. I felt pretty good about that.
Time a client goes above and beyond for you, right? We get tips fairly often, and it feels amazing, right?
Yeah, we get tips a lot. $8,000 though. That's
another story.
I like that.
I can't imagine. All right, Mikey. Well, we're wrapping up, but we have the 3 questions that we ask everybody at the end of ZK Live. So the first question I have for you is a DIY tip for painters, for people who are trying to paint.
Like, how general do we want to go here with like DIY? Are we talking like someone trying to get into spraying, or like just general, I want to repaint my bedroom?
Let's talk about DIY for this thing.
I think
not
just
painter.
Proper preparation. Just think the project through. Even on a small scale project. I mean, for me, man, I'm crazy, man. I don't do anything small scale. I'd rather give like a DIY for spraying. Like, go out and get yourself an airless sprayer and play around a little bit. But I think just thinking the project through is probably a great tip. Like, okay, make sure I have all my supplies, because nothing's worse than when you're in the middle of something and you have to run out. Make sure you have all your supplies. Protect the area around you. Anything could happen. And again, just be prepared. You know what I mean? I think a lot of people don't do that. They go, oh, we're just going to paint this room. How hard can it be?
Yeah, respect.
So I think just
you're about to do. You're about to go do a thing that requires respect.
That's it. Think it through. And maybe have some expectations for what you want to do. You know, how crazy do I want to go here? Am I going to sand the walls? Am I going to patch all this? I mean, there was a time at one of my old houses where I had my whole crew come in and we just threw paint on the wall just to make it look a little bit better. You know what I mean? Like, how crazy do you want to go here?
Yeah, but think it through. Give painting a little bit more respect. If you're a DIYer, give painting a little bit more respect and think about it. That's tremendous. All right. What is your favorite piece of painting paraphernalia? Tool, piece of equipment, you name it.
I love my Kremlin, man.
I knew you were going to say that.
I love both of them. I love that golden gun.
Tremendous.
Absolutely.
So Kremlin Air Mix. And which Air Mix do you run?
We've got two 15-1s, 15C25s.
15C25. I have one of those as well.
Yep.
Beautiful. All right. Well, if you want to just repeat your answer from earlier, you can do that. I think that would still win.
I don't know if I want to do that now because now we have Chris from Shoreline is tuned in. I don't know if I want to repeat that.
Well, let's go back to the beginning of the episode and find out that insanely amazing and very honest, deep, dark secret that you shared with us. But I got to do my spiel. No, I don't. Whatever. We asked this question because.
I was joking, man. I don't think anything can top that, like, ever.
No.
I put in like 60 hours.
So let me ask the question for everyone so we don't just cut to it. I know you know the question, but you've demonstrated your expertise. Everyone who's seen your Instagram, we all know. But now we need to pull you back down to reality, and we need to embarrass you and laugh at you. So we want you to tell us the most embarrassing story that you have for painting. All right. Sorry. There you go.
I think you probably could have built it up a little bit better, but that kind of online internet famous black door that I did that everyone kind of said, wow, this kid came out of nowhere. Basically a flawless gloss door that I spent almost a month on and gave my all, spent $2,500 to do basically. It's complete. It's beautiful. It's perfect. I can't believe it. And I go to put the door hardware on, and something's not lining up. Like, what is going on here? And my carpenter looks at me. He doesn't have the heart to tell me. And he goes, Mike. And then it hit me. I'm like, I painted the wrong side of this door. So I spent 3 to 4 weeks on this project. I gave it my all, put everything into it, invested an insane amount of money into it, and I delivered a perfect, flawless mirror finish on the incorrect side of the door. It was supposed to be the exterior facing side of the door, but I did it on the inside. Chris said he painted the wrong house. I thought he was going to be roasting me right now, but he said he painted the wrong house.
Chris, you're not alone. I also painted the wrong. That's always been my most embarrassing, and I have friends who've never let me live that one down. It wasn't a 6,000 square footer though. Mike, that is an unbelievable story. Anyone who's not seen the door, scroll back to, is it on your highlights? It's on your highlights, right?
I think it still is, yeah, under the gloss doors.
Gloss door highlights. Mike did an absolute perfect gloss door, and it turned out it was on the wrong side. So how did you finish that door up in order to get it to them?
Well, I had their door for a very long time. The client was awesome. She was super cool, super understanding. I said, what do you want to do? Do you want to do 2 sides in Holland Lac? She's like, well, I kind of need my door back. We're going on vacation. You've had the door for a long time. So we just threw some Aura Grand Entrance on it and dropped it off. That was it. One thing I want to say is, because we just ended with my first gloss door being absolutely incredible. That didn't happen by accident at all. Maybe that's when people started to know who wet paint was, but I put a lot of time in with learning and understanding the paint. And I always tell people to start brushing it first, and they always have a smart ass comment. How do you practice spraying? By brushing, because you start to learn the level of prep needed. You start to learn the paint, how the paint reacts. None of this stuff happens by accident, man. Maybe it was kind of a little bit lucky that my first door came out that good, but I mean, I literally gave it my all. And this stuff is not to be taken lightly, for sure.
No.
I just have such an insane respect for the craft and for the brand.
Yeah, Mike, you're an inspiration to everyone out there. You know, it's amazing. Your passion is infectious. I'm lucky to call you a friend, man. I really, really appreciate you coming on this show, bearing your soul. If anyone's not following this guy on Instagram, they better start. Again, man, thanks for coming on.
Honestly, man, it's an honor. I looked at you as like an idol, man, and then you became a mentor and a friend, and we're like family, man.
Yeah.
All you guys, like, That's the coolest part about being a fine paint certified painter is you guys. Love it. Jessica, I gotta, give her a little shout out. I absolutely love her. She's incredible, man. She's always, all of you guys are always there for me. It's been a rough year for me. It's been the best year I've ever had in business, but personally, it's been a little rough, and all of you guys are right there for me, and can't put a price on it. I love all you guys.
Yeah, I love you too, buddy.
So thanks for having me, man.
Absolutely, man. We're part of a community. Thanks to Instagram, we're all the same, right? We're these passionate craftspeople, and
slightly crazy, very crazy.
Yeah, there's a hint of crazy, and that we have to fight sometimes. But it's awesome that we can be there for each other. Again, man, keep crushing it. Thanks for coming on the show, and I'll talk to you later, buddy.
Yeah, we're just getting warmed up, baby.